So this is part 2 on restoring 4 David Bradley tractors, at least what's left of them anyway. So since the last video I already tore down the 64 Suburban 600. I do still have to get the front axle and front spindles and stuff tore apart, but I couldn't get them roll pins out. So I'll just have to squirt a bunch of stuff with penetrating oil and hopefully get it apart then. But I'm going to have just a whole pile of stuff I can't get apart to work on all at one time. And then the 65, which is the one I got the steering unseized in the last video, is what I'm going to tear down right after I shut this camera off. And then after that, I'm going to do a time lapse on this here 1959, what's left of it. And then hopefully we can get that very drive pulley unseized, because this is the one that I'm going to leave gas powered, because I do have a perfect engine to put in this. And then the other 3 are going to be lithium electric, just because the whole very drive setup is either missing or just in too bad a shape to ever work again. So I'm going to get that 64 tore apart and then set you up on a camera for this other 59. Alright, so we are pulling apart the 1959 Suburban. So the first thing I'm going to pull off is this here pulley slash belt guard cover, which looks like there's going to be 3 bolts. There's this one here, then there's one down through this hole, and then there's one through that hole. This back one here I haven't tried yet, but it's super rusty, so I'm going to have to come up with plan B. So I just came up with an idea. So the bolts I'm trying to get to is that one straight in there. I did notice it's notched, so you don't have to take the bolt completely out. So I came up with using hammer and a punch and just hammering it off, and then we'll just worry about getting that screw out later. So I haven't tried this yet, so we'll just see how it goes. Sorry, this is not the best camera angle. I'm not sure how I can get it in there and hammer on this at the same time, but we'll see if this works. It does kind of seem like it moved. I can see a little bit in there. Luckily this camera has a light on it. It's like it stopped. Oh, I'm hitting something. So it was moving and then it stopped. I think it hit this little bracket for what I think is like a mid-mount attachment, like raise and lower. It's hitting this. So I'm going to have to take this off, which there's 2 bolts here that are probably not going to come off very well. So I'm going to try, so I can't get in there with my impact. So I'm going to try just reefing on it with an open end wrench and either breaking the bolt off or actually getting it off. So I got both nuts off of them 2 bolts. So this will just come off now. Well, it's good enough for now. Now I should be able to continue hammering on that big shroud there and hopefully get that off. I went and got my big flat one. We'll put that in there sideways to make sure it pounds it. There we go. So that actually came off pretty easy. So you can see right here is where the one bolt was I couldn't get out, and then there's the other one. And then of course they're still stuck in the frame. They're kind of rounded out. So the one's there and then one's back here. So I'll just have to cut those off later on with the grinder and then come back and then probably drill and tap some new holes for some new bolts. And then I think from here what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off all of this stuff, and then we'll see about getting that rear clutch thing working. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I've got to take these 2 bolts out. That's right at the tip of my 2 fingers here. There's 2 bolts at the end of this bracket, this little triangle piece here. And then there's 1 bolt right here at the tip of this finger. I'm going to pull those out, which that should take this battery tray off, because I guess this was the electric start model. Because they had an electric start for 59 as well as a pull start model. So off camera, I got this lever freed up. So this kind of moves. Moves this pulley slightly. Doesn't really seem like it's doing what it's supposed to, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the belt off, if I can. Try to loosen this up as far as I can, and then we'll pop that off. And then I'm going to see about loosening up this pulley right here, so this will actually work. So I'm going to get my penetrating oil here, and I'm going to just squirt the pulley, and we'll try to get that unseized. So it is shiny there, I'm seeing, so that's promising that it's just stuck. So I'm actually kind of surprised on much stuff I'm actually able to get apart on these, because these tractors are in such bad shape that I'm kind of impressed that anything's happening. Just soak that good. Don't recommend doing this, pounding on a pulley, because you can break it or bend it, or you know, being careful. It is moving. You can see there's now some silver towards the inner one there. So yeah, it definitely is moving. We'll spin it around this way. Even spins down the middle like that, so that's totally freed up and working. So that's a win. I like it when stuff goes right. So the worst case would be now is I can't get this clutch back here working, which that only needs to work for reverse, which, like I was kind of explaining in part 1 towards the end of the video on how this system here works. But I'll explain that a little bit better in detail when I have one of these tractors actually working, which will probably be in the next video or the video after that. Or who knows when, because it's probably going to be a while. I'm planning on making this a long video series. I need to get this off. This is completely stuck and probably junk. Okay, so my other camera that I was using to show you me working on this decided to quit working. Luckily, I'm able to get the files off of it, and it looks like it's just about done. But the good news is this works. So I just sprayed it with some penetrating oil, and then I hammered on this pulley just a little bit just to kind of jar it loose. And then that's when the camera died. But if I move this lever here forward, still moves a little hard, but if you move that forward, it locks it up. You move it back, and it's still tight. So now it's loose. It's still not, perfect. I gotta, kind of let it soak for a while, but the fact that this moves, it seems like it works right, so that's cool. The reverse pulley mechanism seems like it works. So I think from here, I'm going to pull the front axle off, which shouldn't be a big deal because it's just this one bolt, which might end up being a big deal. We'll see. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to have a roll pin on this side, but I don't know. We'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get that front axle taken off. Seems pretty simple. I don't have a camera to put on a tripod or anything right now until that one decides to start working again. But I'm going to come back after I get that off and we'll go from there. So I wasn't able to get the front axle off. Turns out this bolt here is rusted really bad inside the tube here that goes front and back. So I was hammering and hammering and hammering on it as hard as I can. I kind of started bending the end and I smashed the end of the nut, so I decided just to stop before I wreck it anymore. It's not going to come off anyway. So I got the roll pin out for this side front spindle, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hammer this punch down in here to spread this open so I can get this steering linkage off, and then this spindle should come off, and then at least have the front spindle separate from the tractor. I really wanted to take apart like the other ones, but kind of surprised the two axles I took off actually came off. But I'm going to get this done and be back. So I got the front spindles off of the axle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this frame over there in line with the other ones, and I'm going to pick up my mess, and I'm going to come back and we'll talk about what to do from here. So I got the 4 chassis all against the wall. I cleaned up the floor for the most part. So I organized my parts piles. So these are the parts that I'm going to keep, but not going to be used on these tractors. They're mainly vari drive pulleys, these mower deck hanger brackets, this mule drive, which is specific for the David Bradleys, this here reverse pulley, stuff like that, because these 3 here, like I was mentioning before, are not going to be gas powered. They're going to be electric with a motor direct drive to the axle, and that's because this one here is missing the rear clutch pulley. And then this one is seized up. They're stuck together and it won't spin like this 59 was, I was explaining a couple minutes ago. And then the last one here has got the same situation going on. So basically these 3 are going to become electric, which means I can have forward and reverse by just reversing the motor, and speed controls with the motor. That's how I'm getting around the whole clutch mechanism and everything. And then the 59, because this pulley does spin like it should, independently from each other. So this one will stay gas powered. I do have an 8 horsepower Briggs that'll go on this, and that should work out pretty good. I broke the rest of the black plastic around the steering wheel, and I think I'm just going to leave the steering wheel just metal. But we'll see if I come up with something to wrap that metal with, but we'll go from there. I don't want to take the steering wheel off because it's actually welded to the tractor. So the only way to get that off is to cut it, and I'm going to end up destroying a lot more than just leaving it on there and trying to fix it. So and then I found a proper hood for the 65, which is that tractor. So this is a 66, 67 Suburban 10 hood and grill. That should work. From looking at these in person with a complete hood, it looks like it's about the same. So that should work. And then this clutch, or this bracket here, has to come off because that is not needed on this tractor because it's going to be electric. Which I'm going to give this another soak while I'm at it here. I already moved it a little bit, but want it to be freed up a little bit more before I try taking it off. So I think I have hoods for all of these now. So we've got that hood there for the 65 Suburban 10. The Suburban 600 has its own hood back there. The 59 here has its hood, which is straight back. And then this 59, or actually it's a 1960 chassis. I'm just going to keep calling it a 59 because it's basically what it is, but it's actually a 60. So this 1960 chassis is going to get that 725 hood and basically be turned into a 725. It's going to be painted blue, so there's going to be really nothing left of it being a 1960. So I'm going to end this video right here because this seems like a pretty good spot to stop. And there'll be more coming next round. So I think next video we're going to tackle getting these wire wheeled, which is going to be interesting because they're so rusty. And then primed and painted. And we're going to have some nice looking parts, which is hard for me to imagine right now because it looks like I'm just looking at a bunch of junk right now. But anyway, there'll be more coming soon in the next video, and I'm excited for that.